Phnom Penh is Digby Wren, geopolitical risk analyst and policy advisor at Belt and Road Capital Partners. Let's start on the South China Sea, Digby, because it seems like you're hearing that, Li Qiang saying, look, it just needs to be more understanding right now. Do you see some sort of off-ramp to these tensions that continue to escalate? Or are we actually seeing some sort of armed conflict with China that's imminent now?
Yeah, I don't think there's an imminent armed conflict. I don't think that's going to happen. There's no actual conflict at all, actually, in the Pacific at the moment. And everybody would like it to stay that way, especially in ASEAN. And of course, this is going to be the central focus for ASEAN is economic development, the partnership with China, and trying to build a consensus around Myanmar, around the South China Sea, and what's going to happen in the November elections in the US, and how that's going to work with Gaza and Ukraine as well. So it's a big agenda for ASEAN in Laos, in Vientiane today.
Yeah, Digby, I'm wondering how you are able to say that there is no conflict. I mean, these ships are ramming each other.
Yeah, I mean, we don't call that conflict in IR. Basically that's just, they're juggling, they're just trying to make some space for each other. But really what's happening, of course, is the problem in the South China Sea is that the area that they're talking about is outside Philippine actual EEZ. It's outside of Philippine area. It's not covered by the American Defense Treaty. And so that's what they're trying to push on because they see it sort of international, clear waters kind of thing. And China is just spending all their time and their efforts to maintain the status quo so that the Philippines don't change it. So look, whether that can develop at the ASEAN meeting today and tomorrow, so forth, yesterday, right. I'm not sure.
Right, but wasn't there a ruling, an international ruling that this part does fall within that area of economic responsibility, Digby?
Only if they have the claim on the islands, on the shoals. I mean, you've got to have that claim. You've got to have that recognised first, and that has not happened. It's not recognised, and in fact, the US. Diplomatic papers clearly state that it's not covered in the Defense Treaty because its sovereignty is not clear. And so then the Americans couldn't include it in the treaty. And that is true also of some of the islands in the East Asia Sea. So, this is an ongoing thing. This is going to be talked about. Blinken's going to try and make it appear that it's, really the biggest problem that they have. It's not. The biggest problem in ASEAN is going to be able to maintain economic growth with the Northern Hemisphere, the US and the Europe in such trouble. Germany's in recession. The US is very close to recession, I think, and the election's coming up. So, very, very difficult situation. The Russians are winning in Ukraine. That's going to be a big shock. And so that's what they're all dealing with today. But, the big one was the Thais have announced a kind of an informal approach for Myanmar. That's going to be very helpful. And so that's the sort of political side. But I think the business, commercial side, digital, cross-border transactions, standardizations, digital currencies, I think this is all going to be very, very important too.
Russians winning in Ukraine, that certainly is your opinion, Digby, but we'll get to something else. I'm just wondering in terms of, you mentioned about the U.S. interests, given all these distractions that you talk about, the state of the economy, wars and whatnot. How much interest does the U.S. have in the South China Sea and in this part of the world? And what role do you think that they have in terms of easing these regional tensions?
Well, the United States has not been easing these tensions, that's for sure. But look, I think it can be done. And I think there's a real interest in the run-up to the elections to kind of keep it smooth. I think we'll see some sort of positive spin out of the Philippines and obviously Li Qiang, really focusing on the idea of good neighborliness. Very hard to say, but that's been the Chinese policy for 40 years. I mean, that hasn't changed. So this is a constant. What is changing, of course, is the approach of other countries around the world. China's been very, very constant in its approach to ASEAN, and that's been very fruitful. We know that's the largest trading partnership in the world. It's going to continue to grow. Average growth in the area is around 5%, and we're looking at -% in Europe, and in the US is really hovering, at zero because if you count inflation. So, look, they want to really hold that together. Asia is still going to be the centre of growth. India's got a bigger role. I think we can see that there's going to be a real concentration on just trying to keep everything calm until the elections are over.
Yeah, well, let's hope that remains the case at least. Digby, thank you. Digby Wren there, geopolitical risk analyst and policy advisor at Belt and Road Capital Partners. Have a great weekend ahead, sir. In other world news here, China's Premier Li Qiang has